Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So we have Tesla offering 1.99% APR financing for the new Model Y in the United States. I think it's easy for people to have the knee-jerk reaction and think, well, that's certainly not a great sign for demand. And while that may be true to some degree, we have to keep in mind what's going on with the broader industry. Ford is offering 0% APR for 72 months for both the Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning. We also have GM offering 0% APR for 60 months for the Equinox, the Blazer, and the Silverado. Now, yes, all of those are 2024 models, so they're trying to clear out inventory. But we do have Kia offering 0% APR for 72 months on the EV9 for 2025 models. So there is still some level of tariff uncertainty, but a lot of these automakers are offering great deals at 0% APR, so Tesla likely just trying to get in line with those rates. And just to touch on all of the headlines talking about Tesla's sales in specific European countries cratering right now, many outlets are reporting on poor April data for countries like Spain and Denmark. And they're saying registration data for France, Sweden, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Portugal also revealed double-digit declines for Tesla. But we also have Norway and Italy that reported data up 12 and 29% respectively this April compared to April last year. I said it all quarter one, Tesla entered Q1 with very low inventory, and Tesla began ramping production of the new Model Y in quarter one. It's going to take Tesla time to restock back to regular inventory levels around the world, and that will certainly have an impact on sales until they do that. If there are no cars available for delivery, then guess what? There won't be deliveries. So the effects of the changeover to the new Y are going to be felt throughout quarter two, and it'll be front loaded at that. Perhaps sometime around June things stabilize, but it really won't be until quarter three when we have a much clearer picture of Tesla's true demand. There was chatter this weekend about some new autonomous laws going into effect in the Czech Republic. The new regulations Czech put into place take effect January 1st, 2026. But this news was actually public as of late last year. It's just now we had the official signing. The main difference with this Czech law is that it makes a clear distinction for legal liability. It places the liability with the manufacturer when the system is in autonomous mode. The law is focused on level 3, enabling vehicles to take over the driving tasks on specific parts of the highway, but the drivers have to be ready to take control, and if they fail to do that within 10 seconds, the cars pull over to stop safely. And the manufacturer, like Tesla, is supposed to be able to determine exactly where their cars will operate with these autonomous features. So if the car is driving, the manufacturer is responsible, but if the car says to take over, then the driver is responsible. So the question becomes, will Tesla be ready to assume that liability and risk to start 2026 in Czech? That is the big question here. So yeah, it's encouraging to see countries working to figure this out and not just sitting back and waiting for the UNECE to codify something. So the ball is rolling in a few different countries, but this change in Czech actually puts more pressure on Tesla to assume responsibility when FSD is operating. Elon did reply to a thread about the change, saying cool, but we already know the next 6 months is going to be quite entertaining with unsupervised progress, so let's sit tight until we learn from Tesla exactly how they plan to handle the rollout across the EU. Motion put out a fact sheet talking about the tariff situation, and they said in 2024, just over 1.5 million EVs were sold in the US. Of those, 595,000 were imported, which equates to 38% of all US EV sales last year. These vehicles originated from 14 countries, with Mexico accounting for the highest number, followed by Japan and South Korea. Under Trump's tariff policies, USMCA compliant vehicles are not subject to tariffs. However, the proportions of vehicles that are not USMCA compliant will be subject to the 25% tariff. While some vehicles made in Canada and Mexico do meet the USMCA requirements, many do not, largely due to the globally integrated nature of EV supply chains. As a result, a significant number of vehicles originating from these countries will still be subject to tariffs, albeit at slightly lower rates compared to other countries. countries. EVs from Europe made up 28% of US EV imports in 2024, which means that's the region that stands to lose the most from these auto tariffs. Not far behind, Japan and South Korea accounted for 23 and 20% of US imports respectively. So we have roughly 40% of all US EV sales last year that will be impacted to some degree by these tariffs. So I thought that helped put some data behind the notion that we should still be expecting cost pressure industry-wide, with Tesla's competition likely being forced to raise prices. As we know, they've been selling EVs at a loss before all of this. Speaking of that, Ford has pulled its guidance for this year, warning it's going to take a $1.5 billion hit from the tariffs. Farley said it's still too early to fully understand our competitors' responses to these tariffs, but it's clear in this new environment, automakers with the largest US footprint will have a big advantage. For Ford, the tariffs are expected to add $2.5 billion in costs overall for the year, mainly related to expenses from importing vehicles from Mexico and China. And year over year for Q1, Ford's net income was down over 70%.
Aurora says its first fully autonomous semi-truck has hit public highways in the Lone Star State. The self-driving semi is making deliveries between Dallas and Houston and has completed roughly 12,000 miles so far. The Aurora CEO says he tagged along in the back seat for the truck's maiden ride. He called the experience the honor of a lifetime, adding in a statement, "We founded Aurora to deliver benefits of self-driving technology quickly and broadly. Now we are the first company to successfully and safely operate a commercial driverless trucking service on public roads." After 4 years of supervised testing, the company delivered more than 10,000 loads to customers across roughly 3 million miles with its autonomous vehicles.
Even though it's only one truck, shout out to Aurora for officially launching a commercial self-driving trucking service in Texas. To date, the Aurora driver has completed more than 1,200 miles without a driver. Aurora has been in talks with companies like FedEx, Nvidia, Toyota, Uber Freight, Volvo, and Werner, but publicly the company said it hopes to expand its driverless service to El Paso and Phoenix by the end of this year. And Aurora's first customers for the launch, Uber Freight and Hirschbach Motor Lines. Aurora does have plans to add more trucks by the end of this year, but they did not specify how many. Sure, it's very early days, but anytime you have somebody say, "Oh, that'll never happen," you can just tell them it's actually already happening. Lara Trump had a sit down with some employees of Tesla. Most of it was stuff we already know, but one line I think is important to share.
But you guys may be getting him back a little more. Are you excited to see Elon around more here at Tesla?
Always excited to see Elon.
Yes, definitely.
Always excited to see Elon, but I don't know that. It's, again, he's there when we need him and when we reach out to him, and what we've been working on has been very clear since, he was running SpaceX, since before, and that takes a lot of time too. So if anybody can do that and continue to do that, sure.
We just kicked off. The cars now drive themselves from the end of the production line over to the ship out logistics lot by
These
themselves.
cars are going to drive themselves. Look at this. There it goes.
Yeah, right here.
Nobody's in there. Wow. That's amazing. That is so cool. Only Elon Musk could do this.
We actually build our own tools.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have this wheels-on automation is actually built in, designed in-house with Tesla engineers. At this station, we actually will take the tire and wheel off the conveyor. We'll take a picture of where it goes on the lugs, and we will auto-secure it.
It's done. That was it.
Done.
The whole tire's on. That was it. That's amazing.
Yeah, this is what we call a skillet system. And so, see, they actually rotate as well. So give the workers the best angle to work on the truck. And then they'll rotate it as they go down onto the straight line.
Tesla, in a few months, will release unsupervised full self-driving. So the cars that people are driving right now, the cars that you can buy from the factory, will be driving around by themselves with no people in them.
Wow.
We call unsupervised full self-driving. So there's literally no one in the car on public roads. We'll start that in Austin in a few months, in June. And then we'll rapidly expand that to the rest of the country. So I'd like to thank everyone who's gone out there and support and bought a Tesla in support of Tesla and me. This is in stark contrast to the crazy people that are running down Teslas. But it's like, it's not like an investment, it's like a child. The company to me is like, it's not just a bunch of money. It's a company that I've grown and nurtured, for over 20 years.
I would not read too far into Elon's "a few months" comment about FSD. He did clarify right after that he meant June. So nothing too newsworthy from those segments, but the world did get a sneak peek into Tesla's vertical integration that we've been talking about for years. There's a pretty big shift taking place in the battery storage market in Texas, and specifically for the ERCOT market. RTC is a new process whereby energy and ancillary services will be dispatched interchangeably in the real-time market. Whereas right now, ERCOT procures ancillary services in the day-ahead market and does not typically move them between resources in the real-time market. That alone is hugely significant for BESS, which makes most of its money from ancillary services and will now shift from being system-wide to being dispatched on a locational basis for every 5 minutes. The go-live date for this new system is December 4th this year. So this real-time co-optimization, it's called, is expected to save 13 to 19% in system costs. It's basically just a new way of managing energy and backup power in the real-time market, which operates minute by minute. It's effectively moving from 1 day in advance to a real-time operating system. And given battery storage systems make most of their money by providing backup power, these batteries can now be used with a lot more flexibility, sending power exactly where and when it's needed every 5 minutes. So with this change, the ERCOT grid is going to become even smarter and the batteries will become even more efficient. As connected and autonomous cars begin their S-curve, the cyber safety aspect is oftentimes way overlooked. It's part of why I love seeing Tesla participate in the pwn-to-own hacking events so they can continually stay ahead of the curve. Cybercrime is expected to cost the world over $10 trillion this year, and that figure was $6 trillion back in 2022. And with thousands of data brokers already established and new ones popping up, and the fact that 30,000 websites are hacked every day, it's a great time to sign up for Delete Me, the sponsor of this video. Delete Me does all the work for you of removing your personal information from these data brokers. If you don't do this, they'll continue to scrape your information from social media and from brands that are actively selling your sensitive info. Delete Me is an easy, affordable step to take to greatly increase your privacy and to minimize the chances of bad actors getting your data. Delete Me is an American company. They've been doing this for over a decade and their support is excellent if you ever need it. Here's my most recent report where I can see the status of my removal at each data broker, and this overview shows that every month there are still listings to be removed. So Delete Me constantly making sure my data stays removed is critical. And checking out sponsors really is one of the best ways to support the channel. So if you'd like to take your privacy back, you can head to joindeleteme.com/electrified to get 20% off using my code electrified linked below or by using the QR code on the screen. Everyone that's been wondering about Waymo's scaling plans, they said they're going to add 2,000 more robotaxis in 2026. They said, "We're investing in our American manufacturing operation with a new autonomous vehicle factory in Metro Phoenix with our partners at Magna. The Waymo driver integration plant will build thousands of Jaguar I-Paces equipped with our fully autonomous tech. And earlier this year, we received our final delivery from Jaguar, and through next year, we will build over 2,000 more fully autonomous I-Pace vehicles for our fleet. This facility's flexible design also enables us to integrate the 6th generation Waymo driver on new vehicle platforms beginning this year with the Zeekr RT. When the facility is operating at full capacity, it'll be capable of building tens of thousands of fully autonomous Waymo vehicles per year." Waymo touched on how they're improving the validation of these vehicles after they're built to actually get them onto the roads. And what they've been working on allows vehicles assigned to our Phoenix fleet to drive themselves out of the facility and directly into service. In fact, these vehicles can pick up their first public passengers less than 30 minutes after leaving the factory. For vehicles intended for other cities, they can be deployed into public service in a matter of hours after being shipped to their local depot. So it sounds like 2,000 more Waymos through 2026, most of which will still be the Jaguar I-Pace, but they'll be shifting to the Zeekr platform slowly over the next 2 years. And then it sounds like it'll be at least a few years before reaching the facility's max capacity. I would just say, ask yourself this question: how many robotaxis do you think Tesla has in operation at the end of 2026 in the US? Do you think it is more or less than 3,000, which apparently is the number that Waymo expects to have operating at the end of 2026? Speaking of Waymo, James Douma said, "The more sensors equals better intuition drives me crazy. It should be more sensors equals more bugs. Autopilot got better when Tesla got rid of the radar." Because who doesn't love a nice hype comment, Elon replied to James Stevenson saying, "As measured by cumulative free cash flow, the chart will look crazy steep in the years to come." And then James, being the man that he is, put together a chart of Tesla's cumulative free cash flow to date, so I figured I would pass that along. Step 1 was turn it positive, check. And step 2, now send it to Mars. Ryan shared a great butts in seats anecdote, saying somebody contacted him that was dead set against Tesla. They test drove a Cupra, MG, VW, and Kia, and by chance on the way home, they drove by a Tesla showroom, decided to stop. They test drove a Model 3, and within 10 minutes said, "I'm buying this car." From hater to Tesla buyer in one drive. Butts in seats never fails. Tesla is now offering the acceleration boost for the new Model Y for $2,000. This takes the 0 to 60 time from 4.6 seconds down to 4.2 seconds. Tesla did file a Form 10-KA recently, which means they have delayed their proxy filing for the annual shareholder meeting this year. Tesla said the board has not yet figured out the date for the annual meeting this year, and the company will announce the date in a future SEC filing. There is some historical precedent for Tesla doing this in 2020 and 2022, usually to allow for things like a stock split or a governance change. And as we've been saying, Tesla still has huge question marks when it comes to executive compensation, specifically for Elon. So could it be Tesla's working on something significant and needs more time? Absolutely. Or it could be something less exciting like it was in 2022 when they delayed for a stock split. By a margin of 212 to 6, voters in South Texas delivered Elon a win, overwhelmingly approving a ballot measure to establish Starbase Texas as its own city. It'll give SpaceX unique authority to set the pace of its own development in the area. The new city commission will have authority over zoning, building projects, and more pedestrian aspects of life. Something to keep an eye on, Microsoft has been telling its engineers to get ready to host Elon's Grok AI model. If the deal proceeds, Grok would be available on Azure's AI Foundry, Microsoft's AI development platform. This gives developers access to AI services and tools. But to be clear, Microsoft is looking only at providing capacity to host the Grok model and not the servers for training future models. One company that's likely not a big fan of this would be OpenAI, as their relationship with Microsoft has already had some hiccups. And if Microsoft starts hosting Grok, then you would guess that competitors like Amazon would also want to do the same. And the reason this could be exciting is because the more developers that have access to Grok through Microsoft's Azure, the more data the Grok model gets access to, and that's the model that will eventually make it into our Tesla vehicles. And hopefully, I still have my fingers crossed, sometime sooner rather than later, Tesla takes a stake in xAI. Tesla is hiring for 2 autopilot vehicle operators, one in New Delhi and one in Mumbai. As I saw Holmar say, Tesla working toward level 6 autonomy with this one. Here's more proof Tesla's about the mission. They said, when landlords offer us exclusivity, we actively reject it and explain our reasoning. We encourage them to install as much charging infrastructure as possible. We stand by our goal of ensuring as much dependable and affordable charging infrastructure as possible, whether that's from Tesla or other providers. In short, Tesla could be locking down plenty of different charging locations where they're the only provider, but they say no, we want as many charging options as we can have so the customer wins. At least for now, I'm sure Elon is celebrating this. OpenAI said, with the structure we're contemplating, the not-for-profit will remain in control of OpenAI. In the letter, OpenAI wrote, restructuring to a for-profit entity would subvert OpenAI's charitable purpose and remove nonprofit control and eliminate critical governance safeguards. That's nice, pretty language for the public, but let's wait and see what this new structure actually looks like. Tesla stock closed the day at $280.26, down 2.42%, while the NDX was down 0.67%. It was a lower volume day, trading 31% below the average. Don't forget, for those interested, check out Delete Me linked below to grab that 20% off. As a reminder, if you'd like to check out my new venture where I will be bringing a physical product to market later this year, I'll always have the most recent video in the description below, and as the video displayed in the outro screen. I hope you have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.